Hi, today we're going to be talking about using the command find. So let's say that you are looking for a resume document that you left on your computer, but you're not really sure what folder you put it in. Now, if you're using a Mac or some other computer, you probably know that they're pretty nifty desktop search utilities, but let's say you're on the command line, so you have no idea how to actually search for this file. What could you do? So in that case, you can use the find command. And the find command is basically a command that searches directories for a file based on the pattern that you give it. So we learned about grep in the previous lecture and how grep uses regular expressions. Find can also use regular expressions, though they may not be as complicated as the ones you would use in grep. So it searches directories, and it can not only search based on a name pattern, it can also search based on access times. So let's say you modified the file yesterday, so you want to search for all the files that were modified yesterday. So access time. And it can also search based on permissions. Now we haven't really talked about permissions yet in any of the modules, but permissions are basically who can access the file. So if I want to say, can all users access this file? Find will allow me to search for files with those type of permissions. So it's very nifty in that it can search based on multiple options, not just a name pattern. So let's talk about how you use find. So the basic syntax for find is find, then what you're searching, where you're searching, so the path, and then what you want to search for. So this is usually the command here, and then you search for, let's say, the name. So now that we kind of know what the command would look like, let's actually type one out on the command line. So here we are on the command line. I'm going to look to check what folder I'm in. You can see I'm in the search module folder, and I'm going to list out the files. So I've got some resume documents, and I've also got this folder called recurse. So let's see if find can actually tell us where these resume documents are. Now obviously these are pretty easy, but we're just going to be looking at the basic syntax of find. So like I said on the PowerPoint slide, I type find, then where I'm searching, so dot stands for the current directory, then I type the action or command I want to use, so I'm looking for a file based on its name, and now I'm going to type the pattern I'm searching for. So I want to look for resume, and I don't care if resume is at the start, middle, or end of the file name. So to do that, like in grep, I use stars to indicate that any string can come before or after resume. So now I run the command. And you can see it showed me the 3 files that I expected it to. So I want to point out that find has a bit of a funny syntax. Instead of just asking for the path and then for the pattern that I'm searching for, it requires me to specify that I'm searching based on the name. This is because, as I said before, find has multiple search options, so I can search not only based on the name, but on other parameters as well. This becomes really useful when you like to string different search options together, but it's a bit confusing if you're using find just to search based on a pattern. So make sure when you actually type out your find command that you specify the name. Also, find operates in the current directory by default. So if I type find name resume, then it does the same exact thing as if I put the dot indicating the current directory, because it already searches the current directory. So now let's say that I'd like to search in one particular directory instead of just the current one. So in this case, I'm using recurse, and I'm going to search for a file with the name Sam in it. You can see I didn't specify the name option there, so I need to do that. And it found that file that I was looking for. So now let's talk a bit more about find's useful features. I told you that you can search based on permissions, also on access times. Find can also allow you to search based on size or type. So if I know a file's really large, I could specify a size limit and search for only those files. Let's look at permissions and see if we can search for a file based on only its permissions. So I'm going to type this command. So you can see the perm option is specifying that I'm only searching based on permissions. And what this command does is it says all users, groups, and the owner or the user of the file. And I'm specifying that the permissions for this file have all users can access it, every group can access it, and its user can access it. Meaning that all of these people or anybody on the system can read, write, or execute the file. That's what the R, W, and X stand for. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. So you can see in the recurse directory I have this file called Firefox that actually has these permissions. So if you'd like to do this on a larger set of files to find which files are world readable, world writable, and world executable, that would be very useful. That's what the A, G, and U option mean. So you can also execute a command for each file. So this could be really useful if, say, you have a lot of files that have a certain name in them and you'd like to move them to a certain folder, copy them to a separate hard drive, or something of the like, but they're all stored within a lot of other files and you don't really want to separate them from the other files. That's when you could execute the copy command for only files that match that search string. So let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to type find -name. I'm going to be looking for the resume files again. And this time, I'm going to specify another option called exec. I'm going to say echo, and then specify this bracket, and then this semicolon. So echo means that I'm printing the name of every file that find finds. And the brackets mean the name of the file that find finds. So that's basically a variable that is passed to echo, and the semicolon indicates the end of the command. So now when I run this, you can see it does the exact same thing as find would normally do, but instead of find printing out the command, these lines, echo prints out the lines. So like I said, if you'd like to extend this example, you could easily replace echo with cp and then copy each file to a different directory. So we've already covered the different options for find and how you can execute a command for each file with find. But let's say you think find is let's say you'd like to use a different option to find. So now we're going to talk about a command called locate. And locate is faster than find because every time find executes, find has to manually search each directory. Locate, on the other hand, stores a database. The problem with locate is that the database that you use must be updated. So if you'd like to use locate, you need to update your database first. So you type sudo update db. After you've done that, you can type locate, and just like find, you specify a pattern. So I could specify resume. and locate would find all the files like that. Now this particular computer is not set up with an updated database, but go ahead and try the two commands I just specified, and you'll be able to find a file based on that name. The one thing about locate is it doesn't allow you to specify which directory you're searching for. So in the option a few minutes ago, when I specified the recurse directory, I specifically wanted to search only in recurse, and find allowed me to do that. Locate does not have a command or an option that allows you to specify the directory. So if you use locate, you'll actually be searching your entire file system. So let's say that I didn't want to search my entire file system, I only wanted to search my home directory. So how could we do that? So in the previous lecture we talked about using grep, and grep can easily allow us to parse our output. So we type locate resume, and then we pipe that output to grep, and because locate will output the entire path for each file, we can specify which folder we're looking in. So let's say I know I'm in my home folder or the Joshua V folder. So for each file, it's going to make sure that that file has Joshua V in the string, and that will parse out the output for only my home directory. So let's review what we've gone over in this lecture. I introduced you to the find command. We covered the syntax of the find command. Then we talked about how you can specify names, permissions, and other options using find. We also talked about using the exec option with find to execute a command. And finally we covered an alternative to find called locate. I would suggest that you spend some time looking over the man pages for both find and locate to figure out exactly how they work and to be able to use them more effectively.